I would say it's its own skin because I tweeted this like Meta's at a crossroads basically, and I think you might agree the latter is probably the scenario that happens, that they either need to go toe to toe with Apple on hardware and the ecosystem, right? So be more vertically integrated, or they need to let go of the hardware and just focus on the software platform and let a Samsung, you name it, company come in and provide the hardware. Basically, then they're going to be like Android and Windows of the mixed reality platform.
That's one example. It's one analogy, Android versus iOS. I'm going to say that's going to be tablet OS, iPad versus Android tablets, right? Which is 90% of the market is Apple and 10% is everybody else. Like I think
Yeah,
that's the risk here.
agree. Yeah, the reality is you regardless, Jay, they're going to lose the high end to Apple. Like I just don't care how there's no scenario where they maintain premium in any scenario. So regardless, it's going to be a potentially, like you said, an 80-20 market, the whole, well, there's not a tablet market, there's an iPad market or whatever, because Apple makes so much money in every category that they're in. The question is, can they monetize the platform more, I guess, like Windows does than perhaps Android, so that they are horizontal. But you're absolutely right. The consequence of that is you've given up the high end, which you're going to do anyway, and now you're just letting a much more diverse and sometimes less consistent hardware environment, but costs will come down, right? It'll be the middle to lower end of the market that they fill. And unless there's a pattern that plays out that's not like PCs, tablets, and phones, which we've seen, and there's something different, if it follows those patterns, Apple gets the high end, somebody has to do all the rest with a platform, and that might be Meta.
I'm sure that everyone else in this field is going back to planning day zero today, figuring out what to do next.
Right.
And I think the only viable solution is for somebody to create an alternative to Vision OS. And I think Meta could still do that. I think because I know that they hired a lot of people into the Oculus group.
It's huge.
And
It's
they
huge.
understand all these complex user issues and the foveation and the eye tracking and all that stuff. They have the ability to compete there, but they have to have a better control of the software. And I think it would be viable. I think that somebody could be a viable competitor to this, because it's going to take years to develop, even for Apple. So if somebody started today with all that expertise, I don't see why Meta couldn't go out and build, acquire/build an operating system team. It'd be expensive, and their shareholders would be upset. But I think if they really, really want to be in this business, it's the name of the company after all. If they want to be in this business, Meta, Facebook has to go out and restart their operating system.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the best case scenario is they're the low value free alternative. That's the best case, right? Where they get 50% they get the volume but no money. The worst case is they just get nothing, and it's iPad. Right? Those are the choices. Like they either have to have their own operating system, or best case is their PC to Mac and have no profit, or even worse, they get no volume, no profit, like the iPad. Those are the choices.
Yeah. Again, though, every market Apple competes in, they absorb the most of the profits, even if they have the less of the share. So I don't see that changing. The question is who, to your point, and I agree with you, and at this point, I just don't see anybody else being able to do this other than Meta. Like, I don't think Google is going to be the platform that does this, and it's just all going to run an Android version. And Microsoft is focused on much other things than a version of Windows that would come to this. So I feel like it has to be Meta. But even in that scenario, right? There's Apple always takes premium. Like that's just been the pattern, and I have a hard time believing that changes. So regardless, they're fighting for X price point and below with a business model that has to evolve. But that's the pattern. I'm just not sure how this changes anything.
It's not a law of physics, though, right? Apple is a company, and they have flaws, and this is all so new that we don't really understand how it's going to play out in the market and how users are going to adopt this and at what rate. So I think there's enough variables in the equation still that Meta could specifically change that if they had the will to do it. I think you're right. I don't think they will. I don't think they can stomach it. But it's certainly possible that someone could challenge this. Because I think there are real risks for everybody else. Because if this really becomes a new compute platform, there is a risk that Apple has 90% of it.
Agree.
Like the iPad, and I think that has to make everybody else uncomfortable.
I totally agree.